This is Talk City, a weekly podcast featuring interviews and events happening around town. Tune into Talk City Greensboro every week on iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play, and download the podcast from Soundcloud. Welcome to another edition of Talk City Greensboro, produced by Greensboro Television Network. It's an easy way to stay in the know while you're on the go. Subscribe to Talk City so you can keep up with what's going on in Greensboro City government. I'm your host, Josh Johnson, and joining me in the studio, as always, is Mr. Devin Smith.
Hey, Josh.
How you doing?
I'm doing good.
Good to see you.
Always a pleasure. What's up, Greensboro? Today's episode is all about the upcoming census in 2020. It's very important to the city, so we're trying to spread as much information about it as possible. To talk to us about the census and what it is used for, and to dispel some of the false perceptions about it, is Sue Schwartz, our Director of Planning for the City of Greensboro. Hey, Sue.
Hey, guys.
Hey,
Thank
Sue.
you for having me.
Thank you for coming down. So let's start with the basic of the basics. Tell us what the census is, really beyond just a population count.
Well, it actually goes back 230 years. It's mandated by the Constitution. The framers of the Constitution want an accurate count of the people who lived in this new country. So literally it's embedded in the Constitution, and every 10 years there'll be a count of the population of this country.
I did not know that, first off.
I don't think I knew that either. I mean, I knew it went way back, but not quite that far back.
So this is not something someone just made up. It's been around for a long time.
Well, what are some of the things that the census won't cover or ask you?
Well, that got a lot of play for the past year is something called the citizenship question. There was a proposal to include answering the question whether or not you were a citizen of the United States. That has been struck down by the courts, and it will not be included in this census.
Okay, so it won't ask you whether you're a citizen or not, but it will ask you some questions about your ethnicity and stuff like that?
Yes, it asks some very basic questions, and I haven't seen the sample questionnaire and see if it's changed much this time around. But it asks your age and the age of the people in the house that you're answering for. Mm-hmm. It answers, there are some ethnicity questions that are in there. How many are children? How many, some basic questions about how long you may have lived in that residence or whatever, but it's very, very basic. There used to be, I should say, some extended questions and a random sample. Then they would ask a little more detailed questions, but that has been cut down for this census.
Okay, so they want to know who you are, mm-hmm. and they want a little bit of background information as far as, and when I say who you are, I don't mean anything extremely personal, but they want to have an accurate count of the different type of communities as far as African American, Caucasian, Latin American. They want to know these things, but they don't necessarily want to know how you got into this country.
Correct. And the big thing, and the census has always been this way, the information is anonymous, meaning even when they release smaller pieces of the data, if it's possible to identify, like say it's what they call a block level, that if there's only one person that answered a question about a certain way, they won't release the information because the privacy is so strongly guarded by the Census Bureau and has been for the entire life of the census.
Okay. Well, that's definitely good, and I'm sure it'll relieve a lot of people as they're going through this, especially since we're in a time where legal citizenship is really a popular topic in politics nowadays.
Yeah. This is not on our script, but
no.
What about like college students, people who are,
exactly.
We're a big college town, so we got a lot of people that are here, but their residence is somewhere else. So.
Excuse me. Well, actually, it's where you're at April 1st.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. So, and there's a special census application for the dormitory, if you live in a dormitory, that the universities fill out.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it's interesting is how we get a sense of our of how many students are actually here at that point in time, and it's what they call a point in time census, point in time count. It's that what that time frame of April 1st. So, we get a sense of college students. We get a sense of their income. We get a sense of whether they're married or not, or living in a household, or if they're in the dorms. That's a different count altogether. But it gives us a sense of who's here. And what does our city really look like in terms of its makeup? So it's always fascinating, and the data gets released each time faster and faster. It used to be, when I first started in planning a long time ago, it would take almost a full year before you started to see results. And now you see it much quicker because of electronics, and that's actually one thing that's going to be very different about the census this year.
Wow. Okay. That makes sense.
So we want to get into some of the things that affect our entire community based off of these census results. So one thing is that the census, even though it doesn't ask about political affiliations, it does affect how many House of Representatives we get in Congress. So how does that work?
Well, correct. So the number of the House of Representatives is fixed at 435. So it used to be they would add so much per certain percentage of population, and it was finally decided, I want to say it was around 1911 or so, that we couldn't keep expanding Congress, that we had to have a fixed amount.
Do they know about that?
I plead the fifth. But the issue is the House of Representatives are to be representative of the population. So it shifts based on population shifts. So we are slated possibly to get an additional member of the House of Representatives as a result of this count, because our population has been growing. Some states the population has been diminishing, so the representation shifts across the country based on that population. So it's really important that we get a count. And if I could touch just a second on how do you get counted, because it's changed this year completely differently than how it's been in the past.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So around mid-March, you'll receive a postcard, and it'll say, hey, we want to count you. And there's 3 ways you can give your information. This is the first time this is going to be an electronic census, meaning you can go online and give your information that way.
Yeah,
you can also request a mail-in form, or you can give it by phone. So we know that in our community, like a lot of communities, we have a digital divide, that there are households that don't have internet access, or even don't trust the internet on their phone. So we're working with the library and with Parks and Rec for the rec centers to make sure we have folks that are aware and can help people access the internet if they want to do it that way, quick and easy, at the library or at one of our rec centers.
Okay.
Cool.
And we can, I guess, touch on some more of that. Actually, spoiler alert, there'll be more podcasts on different communities as far as our active adults community, because we don't call them seniors anymore.
As a senior, I appreciate that.
As do I.
Human relations with the immigrant population here. So there'll be different podcasts on how they will be receiving help as well. So and we'll touch on the libraries and parks and rec centers that are helping out doing with that. So along with the House of Representatives, the census also plays a part in our federally funded programming.
Absolutely.
And that all comes from the census. So tell us about that.
So literally, it's $675 billion a year in federal funding that gets sorted out and assigned based on information from the census. So, for example, in Greensboro, we get community development block grant funds that work with affordable housing and different impacts of some of our target communities. And that's based upon poverty, based on other factors that we learn from the census. So that's important. Things like funding for streets, funding for mass transit, funding for SNAP, funding for a lot of different types of programs are based on the census numbers. Another reason why it's so important, we could lose $16,000 per person per year if we don't get an accurate count.
And that won't change for 10 years.
That won't change for 10 years. So that's why it's incredibly important that we get an accurate count.
Okay. And you were mentioning that you can do it all online. Can you talk about kind of the process? Because I was reading it online. There are several dates and times, like time slots that things will be happening before you even get to a point where someone's visiting you in person to talk about the census.
Right. People will be visited in person sort of as a means of last resort. Like
Yeah.
if you didn't count, if there's somebody there. So, like I said, around mid-March, you should be getting a postcard from the U.S. Census Bureau saying, here's the link, here's your passcode, go in and give us your information. Or if you would like, you can give it to us over the phone, and you have until, I want to say it's April 4th this year. I don't remember, the deadline will be on there, but it's around the April 1st deadline, which has traditionally been Census Day, April 1st. So there are a couple of different places. If you do not fill it out, you don't give any feedback, there are census workers that are dispatched and just double check, follow up sometime in April and in May, trying to get that count as accurate as possible. So things start with, you should start seeing more publicity after the first of the year. Start looking for that postcard. There's actually a phone, there'll be a phone number you can call or an email you can call and say, hey, I never got anything, and follow up that way. And then the count needs to be completed around the April 1st deadline.
Okay. That sounds good. I mean, it's clearly very, very important.
It's extremely important, yeah.
That as a community that we get this done correctly, so we continue to get the things that we are getting help from the federal government, as well as more to help out with our growing community.
Absolutely. Well, Sue, we really appreciate you coming on the show, telling us about this. We've got other stuff coming up that relates to the census. So,
Yeah.
You guys continue to listen and keep an eye out as we get into the new year. It's very important that you are counted. Everybody counts.
Yeah.
Everybody counts.
Everybody counts. That's been our theme. Everybody counts.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we mean that, Greensboro, and it's really important that we show up.
Okay. Thank you for coming down. And if there's anything else census related, how can people ask questions to the planning department?
Our main number is 336-373-2144, and you can say you have a census question. They'll get you to one of our planners, or you can go on our webpage. We have a lot of information on our website about the census, and we'll link you to the U.S. Census Bureau for other questions, but also we'll keep that updated as we put Greensboro's efforts forward.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Sue. Thank you guys for tuning in. Stay tuned in weekly by subscribing to Talk City Greensboro on iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play. And don't forget, you can download Talk City from Soundcloud.
That's all we have for this week. Thank you for tuning in to Talk City. Be sure to watch GTN, your official source for news and information from the city of Greensboro. GTN is available on Spectrum Channel 13,
AT&T UVerse Channel 99,
North State Channel 31,
GTN also streams live on the city's website
at greensboro-nc.gov.
Thanks, everybody.